What are some life skills that people no longer seem to have? I look forward to your responses to this question. Write what you think enjoy watching. Story 1. Everything related to farming and food production. Specialization and urbanization have destroyed the incentive for most of us to learn. Going back even further, hardly anyone today would be able to make it as a forager. We'd end up either starving to death or eating something poisonous. To be more explicit, I think questions like this often draw two types of answers: complaints about kids these days, and complaints about skills that have maybe become less relevant over time. Do you scold people for using their newfangled horseless carriages and not learning how to properly drive a team on a good old-fashioned carriage? Story 2. Well, from what I've been hearing, there are a lot of school-aged kids that are severely behind when it comes to their reading capabilities and comprehension. We're talking 8th graders, 13, 14-year-olds, who are reading at a 4th grade level, 9, 10-year-olds. All signs point to this no child left behind business being the culprit. Apparently, there are few Gen Xers and even fewer Gen Alphas that know how to use a desktop computer. This, allegedly, is thanks to them being raised on iPads, smartphones, and other handheld tech devices. Who knew that a time would come when knowing your way around an old-school desktop would actually put you at an advantage over young folks? Story 3. Sitting down with pen and paper to write a letter/note. When my mother died, I got a couple of texts that read, "Sorry about your mom." When someone dies, I sit down and write a note to that person's loved ones, sharing something I remember about the person and expressing my condolences. My mom deserved the same. Story dealing with disappointment or a negative outcome. And I'm not talking about just the kids these days. It's everyone, multi-generational. People just cannot, it seems, have a realistic and proportionate reaction to something not going the way they wish. Sometimes flying off the handle is understandable and even warranted, but it feels like everyone is ready to die on every hill they come across for a long time now. Story 5. There's this video from Veritasium where he goes around this university, and the amount of people my age that didn't know what makes a moon, or a planet, or someone saying that there's only 10 galaxies in the universe really shattered my view of what I feel like is just common sense. IDK, I kinda wondered, is this just my ADHD and I happen to know these things out of obsession with the subject? Or am I just witnessing the failed public education system at work? But I went to public school and I'm just like, what? Story 6. Communication, basic respect, and basic working knowledge of mechanical or home tasks. Repairing furniture, electrical repairs, plumbing repairs, car repair, etc. Not everyone should become a master electrician to fix their light switch, but you should certainly know how to repair the most common of problems. Story 7. Critical thinking. People seem to get taken into fringe conspiracy theories, get rich schemes, free stuff, cures for diseases that medical professionals have ruled as rubbish, and just about any web information as fact. Not a lot of people do their own research and investigation and hold their political representatives' feet to the fire on promises made that got them elected. Story 8. Believe it or not, properly addressing envelopes to mail something has gone by the wayside. I teach in a high school, and one project completed during the year involves addressing correspondence to be mailed. Not one student could address the envelope properly without assistance. Story 9. Spatial awareness. Why are you not looking around you before making abrupt stops or turns when you're walking on sidewalks? Why are you coming out of shops at full speed and running into people on the sidewalk? Why are you flipping your turn signal on in your car for a split second and merging lanes regardless if people are close behind you or not? Why are you standing right at the top or bottom of stairs/escalators/doors completely immersed in your cell phone? Story 10. Basic troubleshooting. Like it's hard to explain, but imagine this. You're asked to fix a device that has a couple different gears and boxes attached to each other, but you know nothing about this device. Now, if you're older, pretty much grew up in the early 2000s, late 90s, you're probably thinking somewhere along the lines of, oh, well, just look around for some obvious problems, or maybe follow the chain of work. If the electricity goes into the first box and then through several gears to boxes B and A, check that first. Remove the first box and plug it in by itself and see if the little motor to spin the gear spins like it's supposed to. Does it work? Okay, well then let's start checking the other boxes, and so on and so forth. Or you might even think, let me look online and see if somebody has posted documentation about this device so I can figure out more how it works to help me diagnose it. A lot of younger people nowadays I meet genuinely can't do this. Like, you hand them a problem where the answer or solution isn't necessarily right there in front of them, and they just give up. I've even noticed this in video game designs where effectively puzzles are becoming more and more handholdy because the average person is just becoming less and less good at effectively diagnosing problems, puzzle solving, so to speak, which honestly are kind of two sides of the same coin. Story 11. Just listening. I'll say one thing and they either respond completely inappropriately to what I said, twist my words to what I didn't say, or say what I said in a different way, like they came up with the suggestion themselves. Another one is, I'll ask something and they respond incorrectly, like, when did that happen? And they'll try to explain what the situation was instead of answering the question. Story 12. No one knows how to gracefully break a date or plans anymore. Formerly, people were apt to do things like, oh hey, something has come up when we're supposed to meet 2 days from now. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to make it. I hope I haven't inconvenienced you. When's a good time for us to reschedule? Now it's more like 30 minutes after appointment was to begin. Oh yeah, I'm not coming. It was a long day. I'm feeling really triggered about something and I need just watch TV and do some self-care. No mention or effort made to reschedule. I don't know if extreme self-centeredness has taken over people's ability to recognize how rude they are about last-minute cancellations with cringy excuses. Like, people don't seem to understand how insulting it is to say, I'd rather just hang with my cat tonight instead. Okay, bye. I used to think I must have a terrible personality for people to ditch on me like that. But my other friends say this is how people cancel plans now, too. Story 13. Remembering phone numbers. When I was a kid, we didn't have phones, so we had to mentally hold a bunch of phone numbers between 7 and 12 characters long, depending on if an area code was needed. Not only did we remember those numbers, but those numbers were assigned to people. I still use that skill with passwords. I use different emails and passwords for everything. That way, if anything gets hacked, it's only one email and password that's fucked, and I don't have to change everything. Had a conversation with my mobile provider because out of the blue their system wanted to force a password change, even though you can't sign into the account without my phone number for two-factor authentication. Anyway, I couldn't really be bothered changing the password, so phoned up to ask why the system had flagged a password change. Got the, it could be this, it could be that. I said no, it can't be that my password was hacked somewhere else because it is nowhere else other than my head. She laughed at me, saying no human being could do that. No human being can remember a 12 characters password and email, and they wonder why people get annoyed at them. Story 14. Self-control while operating machinery. No, you can't be the only one on the road right now, and please keep your death machine under control. The speed limit is there for a reasonable reason, so you stay healthy. Me and my bumper are not in control of changing the laws. Oh, and you obviously didn't notice, but my car is not built the same way as your I'm really insecure, therefore huge truck. No, we will not be taking this exit on 2 wheels. You are welcome to try it in the middle of the night when there is less traffic and see how that goes for you. On a tangent, what imbecile thought it was a good idea to let pedestrians have the run of the road? My state has gone insane with laws about stopping for pedestrians to the point where many are not even looking before they walk right out into traffic. Story 15. Patience. So many seem to have lost the ability to wait their turn. I work retail and will have 3 people around me needing help. I will help you when it's your turn. Everyone says it's a quick question, and that may be true, but the answer may not be quick. I'm not sure why, but waiting in line to pay for a product with 3 people in front of them, people lose their minds. Story 16. Saving documents in any sort of digital file system. Was working with a team of younger folks and kept asking them to save their files in a specific folder on a server, and they would say, okay, and then it would never happen. I stumbled on an article that said the generation I was working with was used to saving stuff wherever, app-based work, and searching for it using the search bar later. So whenever I asked them to save a file someplace, I added a link to where it needed to be saved to the word here, and it solved the issue. They could click on that link and save their stuff. Now I do that for everyone. Story 17. Math. Basic math like reading decimals, fractions, calculating a percentage, or the average of something. A lot of people simply lack these skills. Also, following directions. A lot of people say that they don't teach you how to do your taxes in school, but they do teach you how to read and follow directions, which is 99% of what doing your taxes is. Story 18. Making a phone call. Back in the day, making a phone call wasn't seen so much as a skill, but rather a rudimentary part of survival. There was no internet. You had to use the phone, the newspaper, magazines, and your local library, card catalogs, to find out what was going on. You'd quite literally pick up the receiver, LOLG's the receiver, dial the number, we had buttons, I'm not that old, and wait for someone to pick up, ask your question, get your answer, or make your dinner reservation, or whatever you needed. It's mind-boggling to me how many people don't seem to have this ability anymore. I actively teach this these days to kids in my class, because it's still necessary to talk to strangers once in a while. I once made a phone call right in front of a group of friends. I called a nearby grocery store to verify they had a product in stock before heading over. Damn near blew everyone's minds. Story 19. We know ask potential interns to address an envelope and put a stamp on it. Most do not know how to do this basic life skill. This all started a few years ago when we asked an intern to address and put stamps on birthday cards for the month. Every envelope had the stamp in a different wrong place and the to address in the different spots. Never imagined we would have to provide a sample envelope for a kid about to graduate university. Now, if an intern can't do it properly in the interview, then we know they lack basic life skills. Story 20. I live in Silicon Valley, and it seems that most people don't know how to do basic maintenance on, well, anything. I work part-time with a friend who's a general contractor, does pretty much more on the higher-end stuff, but the amount of stuff we do that I would have never called someone to do is mind-blowing, even before I worked with him. Again, just basic around the house, simple repairs. And he charges $180/HR. It's crazy. To be fair, there is of course a ton of money in the area, but hell, something basic you can do with a screwdriver, a hammer, and the slightest bit of mechanical inclination could save you a couple $100. Change a flat without calling a tow truck to come do it. Change oil in a car. I know some cars this is actually difficult, but not many. Spray the house for bugs. People will pay Terminex or whomever $100 every month or two for watered-down pesticide. All professional services use, by law, very watered-down pesticides. When you can buy better product over the counter, spend 20 minutes doing it yourself and save $70-80. Honestly, the list of basic stuff that people pay a service for is pretty crazy to me. Story 21. Sewing, navigation, repair, jury rigging. Sewing is an amazing skill that can both create and repair. I've saved many clothing articles because I know how to use a needle and thread, when so many people just discard clothes with rips and holes. Navigation. I know because I can't even really. People used to be able to navigate without computer assistance very well. My best friend's dad still prefers physical maps to a GPS. Repair/jury rigging. Repairing items can be both fun and satisfying work, and will lend to saving money. I have a very fix-it-oriented brain, and I've been fixing things since I was small. 1,000,000 problems can be solved with a Leatherman, 1,000,000,000 with tools and the right items. Got a hole in the wall? Get some spackle, a putty knife, and a little bit of color-matched paint. And a couple days, some sanding for evenness, a paintbrush, and you're good to go. If it's a really big hole, you can buy spare drywall or support for the spackle. Vehicles, furniture, equipment, so many things I maintain on a daily basis that last longer because of it. Story 22. People can't cook anymore. We've been cooking since the dawn of humanity, but I would say sometime in the 70s, it just stopped being a regular everyday thing. Cooking shows on TV are merely a spectacle to watch. They are not remotely informative or educational about cooking in any way. Convenience foods and fast food have overwhelmed the global diet. School children can't identify basic ingredients. Adults say their food comes from the store and not from an animal or plant or place it was grown. 70 years ago, Americans spent 10% of their income on food. Today, we spend 5% and mostly on non-food. We've all pretended to be so busy that we can't pick up a basic life skill that keeps us alive. It's easier to smash a plate of chips in front of the TV. There's cooking fails like you burnt the pudding, but then there's cooking fails like not knowing pasta had to be cooked in water. This is rightly embarrassing and seems to affect people of all generations and all genders, unless an individual seeks out better education. There's only two kinds of healthy eating nowadays. People who have a healthy relationship with real, whole food and their body, eat low on the food chain and respect the ingredients, and can prepare a wide variety of healthy meals. Or the people who eat a highly packaged pseudo-food with artificially inserted nutrients, or dump a powder into a water and blend. And that's most of their meals in the day. These are people who claim they are healthy, but would never eat an actual tomato. Yet the irony is that we're all jumping on the health bandwagon like people know what they're doing, and they're in control of their diets. Rather, they're just buying convenience foods labeled with some magic diet fad words, low-fat, natural, gluten-free, because they absolutely lack any basic education on food or nutrition and don't bother to educate themselves, and therefore are at the mercy of marketing slogans slapped on the front of a box. Being 400 pounds and gluten-free is not the flex some seem to think it is, but a box of granola bars that boasts 20 artificially added vitamins and minerals is easier for a person with no food literacy to understand than just looking at a banana and deciding if it might be healthy or not. It sounds incredibly stupid because it is. Eating clean is vague and meaningless, but people love to throw it around on first dates like some sort of virtue signal that they're healthy and therefore good person. Quick poll for Reddit. How many of you have used the eggplant emoji in the past 2 years? How many of you have eaten eggplant in the past 2 years? Story 23. Repairing items. Like being able to sew and repair clothes. It used to be the norm. Now we wear stuff like 7 times and put it in a landfill and buy more cheap crap. I recently learned how to sew and have already saved so many things from the landfill to get more use out of it. Same thing with appliances. Living like this isn't sustainable. It's gonna bite us all in the ass. Story 24. Knowing how to change a flat tire. I could be way off base, but it seems like most people whip out the cell phone and call for roadside assistance rather than dig in and change it themselves. It's not that hard, and you never know when you might get a flat in the middle of nowhere and have to do it yourself. Knowing how to back up a trailer is another one. I see a lot of semi-drivers on a daily basis that can go anywhere you want in forward, but couldn't back up a 53 reefer to save their lives. It seems like that would be a required skill. Story 25. No one seems capable of fixing their own stuff anymore. I get that not everyone is a master handyman, I'm far from it, but I'm also not afraid to pop the cover off something to fix it. For example, a few months ago, a friend got BBQ sauce all over his PS5 controller. The buttons became all mushy and were not as responsive anymore, so he planned on buying a new one. Took me less than an hour and 1 YouTube video to fix it. $1.60 saved, or basically 4 hours of his after-tax wages. Story 26. Waiting to develop an opinion. People feel like an instant opinion is required, based on a headline or video they saw. Upon questioning, it turns out they did no other reading and actually know nothing about the topic. They haven't verified a source. I think it's important to have the full story before settling into a stance. Story 27. The ability to socialize and hold a conversation. Whether it was the isolation of the pandemic, the amount of time we now communicate our phones/social media or whatever, people just fundamentally seem incapable of actually having a chit-chat. I go into office once a week, with a large chunk of my team who are very active on Teams chats during the week. When we are in person, though, you can hear a pin drop, given the lack of any confident interactions between anybody. It's so depressing to just take a step back and see how anxious and uncomfortable people are opening their mouths and sharing something about themselves. Story 28. One life skill that I have talked about with my father recently is that most people, in America specifically, in this age, do not know how to chop firewood. I have never personally had to chop firewood for anything, but I know how to do it, and it really doesn't seem like it should be that hard. But me and my dad were talking about people his age that couldn't even swing the age properly. Full-grown, big-muscled men. I was confused because I am 5'6", 120 pounds, and I can still use an axe. Weird thing to think about, but I guess not as many people go camping like we do. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.